And sometimes I have conversations with employers saying, well, graduates that we've taken on haven't been job ready. My counter to that is always, well, would you really want them to be if you think about it? But what I would say is you don't always have to see the value of the experience immediately. If you've got 3 things in front of you that you could decide to take on, and actually I consider employability to be much more akin to maybe a conversation you have in psychology or something like that, where I say it's an identity, and it's something that isn't just.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Jay Thakkar Show. Today we have Mr. Iwan Williams, who is director in the career department at the University of Liverpool. So thank you so much, first of all, for giving us your time.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
So, I mean, being a director in the career department in the university, where the time and the norm is in a way where one should not go to university because they'll not likely get a job. So, what's your take on sort of the role of university for an individual in terms of how they can take their career forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and there's so much to unpick from that question that my head was already spinning into various different rabbit holes to disappear down how I would tackle that. What I'd probably do to begin with is acknowledge a few things. That one is that university as an experience, as a life experience, as an educational experience, is truly a huge opportunity for students to explore themselves, to explore what is out there for them, and to kind of make decisions, or at least kind of set pathways in place to see what can come next. The ways that you do that, and every single person is different, and that individual journey through that is so different. It's different for every single person. And in some ways, that's one of my biggest challenges as director of the Careers and Employability team here, is to be able to create an offer that is not just right for some students, but actually offers all of our students some way to undertake that journey. From students that come here very motivated and dedicated and maybe fixed in their mind around what they want to do and what they're looking to gain from their educational experience and what's going to come next, to others, probably a bit like me, if I'm honest, when I came, which was really having no idea. And even for someone who has no clear idea of what's going to happen, and they're quite open-minded and maybe in a comfortable place at being open-minded, there's got to be developmental steps on the journey. There's got to be different opportunities and different experiences that support that student. So when they do come to a time when they want to make a decision, maybe because they've decided naturally, or maybe because they're about to graduate and the decision's being forced upon them, they've got something to look back for, something that they can kind of hook their thoughts and ideas around, and saying, well, when I did this, I enjoyed it. When I did that, I didn't enjoy it. This is giving me some clues as to what can come next. So even if you're not 100% sure on what the decision is, you've got something that will support you when that time is right.
Right. And also, I mean, I feel that, I mean, for me personally, you can correct me if that's what the case is. But for me personally, university is, it's like university haven't taken. So my point is, like, university is a place for education. It is not a place where it is not a factory of giving people a job. Because when I choose a university, I don't choose it because, okay, this will give me a job, but I select a university because I want to get into a certain kind of environment. I want to meet a certain kind of people. I want to network. I want to sort of learn about a particular thing which I'm doing my degree in. And also, like, as you said, that university overall as an experience also gives you sort of a safe space to sort of experiment and learn and try and new things, so that you can also figure out some parts of how you want to take your career ahead. Yeah. What do you think of the role of a university in general?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think the way you describe your journey and your understanding of it is a really interesting one, and one that many people will identify with. But for every person that identifies with that being your experience or expectation, there'll be others that go, well, actually, my expectations are completely different, maybe higher, maybe lower, all of those kind of things. And it goes back to that point of that challenge around how do we help every single student at a university that's got over 30,000 students develop and grow in their employability in the time they spend with us. So I think that there are a number of factors at play. You could look at universities as a kind of a factory of producing the next generation of talent for our industries across the world, a global industry, a global workforce. You could look at it that way. But if you ask lots of people in the university, they will also say that education is the heart of the experience. People come here to be educated, to engage with their subject topic and all of those type of things. But there is, I think, from a political perspective, maybe a bit of a push to look at that skills agenda. And by that skills agenda, I mean future-proofing workforce of the future. So universities have to battle that, and that's also kind of where there can be tensions around that conversation, and it's where my role really sits, is I need to understand the educational experience. I also need to make sure that if you look at employability as a tool, we are sharpening that tool, we are getting it ready for what comes next as well. And sometimes you can do it very deliberately and very carefully around talking to students about what I consider to be recruitability. The word recruitability, by that I mean having a good CV, knowing how to do well at an interview, where are the jobs, how do you apply? That recruitability, that get a job piece of this is something that we talk about a lot. The bigger picture for me, and if I'm honest, is the more interesting bit to me, is that sense of what employability is, because that's what sits at the heart of this whole conversation for me, is what is employability? It means something different to everyone. And actually I consider employability to be much more akin to maybe a conversation you have in psychology or something like that, where I say it's an identity, and it's something that isn't just, can I get a job? Will I be good at the job? Yeah, they're part of it. But actually I think good employability and a sense of self-identity within this employability conversation makes those two things much more likely. You know, AI can write you a good CV. I mean, it might even get you an interview. It probably will get you an interview. But when you're put on the spot in an interview, or if you get through that interview into the job, if you have leaned so heavily on tools that will help maybe take shortcuts through that process, at some point there is a chance that that lack of depth, that lack of understanding of what you're applying to and what the job involves and the research that can go into it will then become exposed. And it might be not that you are exposed in a way where suddenly you're not capable of doing the job. It's probably more likely to me that you think, actually, this job isn't really what I want to do. I'm not getting that sense of enjoyment, that sense of satisfaction that I really want from something I'm going to spend 40, 50 hours a week of my life doing for the next 50 years. I think employability is something that's so important. We owe it to ourselves and ultimately others around us to dedicate some time in understanding what it means for us, letting us have the time and the opportunity to develop it over a course of action. You do it throughout your entire life. You're right when you say university is a really great opportunity to focus in on it. When you get older or when you move into other things, it becomes much more difficult to go back and do that. Although I would also say it never stops, it always develops and it's never too late. But university is a really fantastic opportunity to dedicate some time to that self-development of what employability means for you. And I believe that if you do that well and you take it seriously when it comes to making those decisions, when it comes to stepping into that workplace of whatever kind of workplace it is, you have a much greater chance of having the level of satisfaction and enjoyment that frankly we all want and we all deserve.
Fair enough. And also it's almost like you said, it's part of the employability is more of an identity of what you go, and that's very in line with what I usually function of. My sort of way of functioning is FOF, is focus on fundamentals, which is very in line to what you said about employability and identity. I mean, if you can just throw more light on that particular topic of employability and identity, because I feel that the lack of depth is can easily be understood, but then other than the lack of depth, or let's say just extra polishing the CV, other than the skill set part, I think it's also way more important that an individual as an employee comes with a lot more things, such as morality, such as work ethics, work culture, and all these things I think makes a really big impact on what your career would look like in future.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and this is where sometimes with this conversation, and this topic in general, what you want to be able to say is, well, look, here are 3 things that you can do, and these will sort you out. And at the end of these 3 things, you will know exactly what you want to do, and you'll be really successful and happy for the rest of your life. But of course, we know that's not always the case. So there are kind of, I think there are pathways to explore, sets of behaviours that I think we should consider to be good and positive, and then go and follow our own journey through that. There is no one way for every single person to go through, but there are some, as you describe them, as fundamentals that I think are really good. To me, those fundamentals are a lot of the time around mindset and around being positive, having agency, and by agency I mean that kind of control over your own environment, making decisions for yourself, not being necessarily carried away with the tide, although that can be sometimes lead to good things too, but really having as much control over what happens to you and the decisions you make as possible, always coming from this positive mindset place, which is, will this be good? Will this be interesting? Is it something I've never tried before? And therefore that kind of fundamental puts you into a state of mind that says yes to things more often. Safety first. Don't say yes to everything. So my advice isn't just say yes all the time. My advice is say yes to the right things. But by having a mindset of say yes to opportunity and say yes to new things that come up, you're more likely to be in an environment you've never been in. You're more likely to meet people that you don't know. You're more likely to stumble across something that really suits the way you are as a person that you perhaps previously were unaware of. And if you are putting yourself into those environments, into those settings, meeting those different people, becoming parts of different communities, and just kind of having that say yes mentality, I do believe that at some point that will come back and that will benefit you, all of us, hugely. I'm conscious that just to add to this as well, sometimes I think that we look at employability as quite transactional in when it comes to experience. And by that I mean, we want to queue up internship, part-time job, volunteer. We want a CV that looks full with lots of stuff on it, right? And I get that. That is, again, it would be hard for me as a director of a careers team to say, hey, look, don't worry about that. I do agree that they're the right things to do. And I absolutely do think that we should always be focused on trying to build our experiences. That's a fundamental belief of mine too. But what I would say is you don't always have to see the value of the experience immediately. If you've got 3 things in front of you that you could decide to take on, sometimes it'll be obvious which is the right one, but there are other times where it'll only be when you look back in 5 years in the future, go, you know what, I was going to say no to that, but when saying yes, the chain of events that led from me saying yes to that has now led to me being where I am here, but at the time I didn't have a clue. So that's where there's a gamble, there's a risk, there's uncertainty around some of the decisions that you make. And what I would always advise is, yes, follow the internships, yes, follow the work experiences, yes, build your networks, yes, do all those core fundamentals around employability that are really good, but throw in a few little curveballs as well. Throw in some hobbies, interests, societies, environments, things you've never tried. Just go and try those as well, because you just never know. And the worst thing that can happen really at the heart of that is that you try something, you think, oh, it really wasn't for me, and you never do it again. And that's still not a loss, in my opinion. That's just another brick in the wall of knowledge around you and yourself that you can put in that into place. So I think this mindset of positive, say yes to opportunity, put yourself into different environments are the key fundamentals of building or starting to build a sense of employability that will carry you through your life. And as you move through that, you then start to be more particular and more specific in the kind of experiences you add, because you're starting to get that sense of direction of where you want to go.
That's so relatable for me, because my sort of journey when I came to UK, I came in from a very different physics background to philosophy. And from there, I was looking for part-time jobs. I applied to almost like few hundred jobs, but obviously not having a UK-based experience leads to a lot of rejection before you get to anything. And I just sort of emailed student support for School of Arts, and I said that I have experience of podcasting, and I actually stopped doing podcasts a year before I came to UK, and I almost thought that I am almost done, I'll not do it again because I don't have a lot of resources to do it, and might not have a lot of time to do it as well. So I just took a shot that let me just email and see if there's anything for podcasting just in case. And then Amy from student support, she just guided me to the right person, and then I got my job, and because of that I got resources that I can restart my own podcasting journey. So it's also about not waiting for the opportunities, it's also about creating opportunities. and maybe just go around with what you feel. Simply ask people, ask more. That's one of my reflection of being here and doing my master's in this university, is just be okay to ask dumb questions.
I don't, that's a cliche, isn't it? Say there are no daft questions, and it's true. But sometimes we all say that, but we also feel it going, well, maybe this is the dumb question I shouldn't ask. I do think that, to me, that challenge relates to confidence, which is, I guess, another fundamental building block around employability. And I can't sit here and say, right, listen, everyone, just be confident, because confidence is a personal thing. And there are some environments we feel that confidence, others where we really struggle with that confidence. And I don't think there's a human alive that doesn't have that journey, and we all have it to a lesser and greater extent. And for me personally, there's been times where I felt very confident and times where I felt very, very low in confidence as well. So for me, it's always been that movable feast as well. So I would just make that reference of, I would say, be confident to do what you've done, what you've described, go and reach that. Go and reach out to different people and go and try and find different support. That's such an important thing to do. The building block for that action is self-confidence and that ability to take that gamble. So what your steps are around your podcast, that journey you describe, will look different for a different person, but the starting point is the same. I want to do something. I'm going to take a bit of a gamble. I'm going to risk asking that question that that no one else wants to ask, but I'm going to find something I'm interested in, find something I'm good at, find something that I enjoy, and I'm just going to try and pursue that and see where it goes. Now, it may end up that you do something for a couple of years, you really enjoy it, and then you stop doing it, and that's it. And you look back and go, that was a great experience. I really enjoyed that. It might be that this is the first step on a bigger journey, and who knows, it becomes a business, or it becomes an idea, or it becomes the thing that really marks you out as different from a very crowded kind of recruitment space when it comes to graduates. So your journey is absolutely right. It starts with that fundamental of being proactive, being positive, having the confidence to go for something. And once you've got those in place, act on it. Some people in life are lucky and things land in their laps. And we all know people like that. The most dangerous thing you can do there is compare yourself to those people, because I would never begrudge anyone having good luck. I mean, I'm really happy when I hear a story like that. I'm really happy for that individual. But what I also think is important to acknowledge is that, that's not probably the likelihood for most people. Most people will have to take a risk, take a gamble, put themselves into an uncomfortable situation. Not too uncomfortable, but slightly uncomfortable to be able to do that. But I do believe fundamentally that by taking those steps, you are maximizing your chances of achieving the success, whatever that success means for the individual, later on down the line.
Yeah, that's true. And also, again, exactly related to this journey is because my work, which I got as a part-time, was to actually work around cameras and technical stuff, which I haven't done it any time before. Mm-hmm. So after I got my job, I actually learned how to turn on the cameras, how to function with the cameras, what are the settings, how it works, and all those kind of things. And I could only do that because I put myself in that situation where I'm like, I've said yes, I need to do this, and because I need to do this aligns somewhat to what I want. Mm-hmm. So I need to add more skills for me to just perform this, to be able to continue this. Yeah. And I think that's also very similar to a lot of people who would put themselves in an uncomfortable situation, even though they don't have the exact skill which it requires. But just being in that position, sort of being confident that I can add that skill, I think even that's a bit of confidence is much more helpful.
It is. And I think one thing you're saying there really leads my mind to thinking around that kind of skills debate. So when it comes to skills, there are kind of, if I simplify it massively and say there are hard and soft skills, I would say that in the UK particularly, and I think probably lots of other kind of Europe, the sort of global West kind of idea, one of the key recruitment things that employers look for probably fall amongst the soft skills area. And by soft skills, we're talking about effective communicator, good team player, problem solver, proactive, energetic. Actually, they align quite a lot to some of the principles I describe as being fundamental in building your employability. So, there are benefits to that as well, because by displaying those qualities in your own life, you will then be able to display them in a job interview. So there is a link to recruitability from this employability, this sense of self, to the recruitability side of it, which is sitting in front of employer, this is where they do link in quite nicely. However, there are also expectations around hard skills, and those are the more technical skills, from what you described, through different programming languages, through working in laboratories, through utilising different digital tools and tech. AI is another debate that we could have as well around this. There are technical skills that are really important too. What I'd always say is that if we go back to your very first question around your experience at university and in education, if the expectation is I'm going to not only have the opportunity to develop and grow my soft skills and be able to evidence them, but I'm also going to come out with all of the hard skills I need to then go and get my first graduate job, or whatever that expectation is, a lot of the time that won't necessarily be the case, because universities aren't geared up, and I don't think their purpose should even be that they produce that phrase of oven-ready graduates for the workplace. They will provide a student the chance to build and grow and understand and develop to a certain point, but there's still lots of development that needs to happen when that person then enters the workplace, depending on what the job is and the sector that they're going to work in, where they are in the world and things like that. And sometimes I have conversations with employers saying, well, graduates that we've taken on haven't been job ready. My counter to that is always, well, would you really want them to be if you think about it? Do you want someone walking in with a very fixed mindset of this is how it works because my university or my school or my college has told me this is what I must do? You would spend the first 6 months of them working, undoing a lot of the learning that they've done. Having someone who is, let's say, 75% ready, I'm just picking a number there, almost at random, gives you that 25% room to really shape for your own individual business what you need. So there are some challenges around this skills debate, to go back to that idea of soft skills that underpin everything fundamentally, hard skills that enable you to function on a day-to-day basis within a workplace, depending on what those skills are required, but then always having that flexibility in yourself and hopefully as the employer as well, to support that continued growth, that continued development in the workplace as well, because that's really important. As I say, it's a big part of my job is to try and align our employers, our students and graduates to a place where everybody's on the same page going, well, look, this is really the best of both worlds. I get someone who is really open, really excited, really positive, really innovative in their thought, will bring fresh ideas to your business, but they're not so fixed that they become almost unworkable. What they are is someone that you can really add those finishing touches to something that is an amazing kind of starting point. It is, if you like, the cherry on the top of the cake. The cake's been made, it's been mainly iced already. All you need to do now is add the decoration, which is specific to your business. And that, to me, is where that skills part come in, because your camera skills and your ability to do what you were describing before was something you were able to add because you had the right mindset, the right interest, you were motivated and you wanted to do it. And ultimately, yes, you had the confidence to go and put yourself in that place and say, I'm going to learn this because this is good for me to learn.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And like just moving on, and I've sort of thought of asking you two spontaneous questions, and that's the reason I haven't told you before. Is that one is, what's that one incident in your entire career where decision making has shaped where you've come now?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So I would describe myself, I came to this University of Liverpool, I studied psychology, and I was didn't have a clue as a student. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I wasn't doing the whole fundamentals thing either. The thing that I say to everyone else to do, I didn't practice what I preach. So I'll just own up to that straight away. I came out of uni and ended up getting a job in a manufacturing plant, working in the offices there, because really I just needed a job that was going to pay me some money. It was only then, being in an environment that really did not suit me, doing something I really did not enjoy, that it became all of these big questions, all of those things that I should have been doing dawned on me as, I really need to answer some of the big questions about my life now. What is it I'm going to do? Because I'm 22 at the time or something. I don't want to do this for the next 50 years or 40 years or whatever. I want to do something else. And it really forced me to reflect on things that I've enjoyed, places I've been that I liked, environments that I tend to be energized from rather than be demoralized in. And I was finding myself in a demoralized environment in that workplace. But I thought to think about where else I thrived. And what I connected, and you'll probably know this, having spoken to me now and thinking, you're quite good at talking for a long time here, Ewan. I really enjoy talking to people. I really enjoy engaging in debate. I really enjoy supporting people and trying to help them and helping them have success and take whatever next steps it is. And I found that I had adopted that role within my friendship groups and with other communities that I was part of. People would come to me and I would talk to them. I would ask questions that no one else would ask about how they were doing. And I kind of connected with this idea of working with people and helping. Then, through pure happenstance, through pure sort of random luck, a member of the workforce at the manufacturing plant had a wife that worked in a community-based organisation that supported young people to help them move on with their lives. They would be 16 to 18. They would work with them to try and take those first steps into employability around CVs and things, but work with them to overcome other challenges in their life. Might be family, social, community. There were issues around homelessness, maybe involvement with youth offending teams and things like that. And when he was describing the work that his wife was doing, I was going, that sounds amazing. That sounds like something I'd really love. And then one day he turned up with an application form for the company she worked for and said, here we go, apply. This feels like a very... talking about myself here quite a lot, but it was that fundamental decision to apply for that job that led me to where I am now, which is a job that I love, and I'm really lucky to be in a job that I loved, although I've had experience of not loving jobs as well. But it was that fundamental thing of understanding what it was that I liked and what energized me that led me to conversations that then led to an application to a job that I then went on to do. It was that knowing myself, understanding what energized me and what I enjoyed doing, really reflecting on the kind of person I am and the roles that I adopted in the people around me, my family, my friends, my communities that I was part of, and then going, what can I do in a professional sense that's going to help me really grow and develop those skills further? So that fundamental decision to apply for that job, being as self-aware as I could manage to be, which wasn't that self-aware, but was just about self-aware enough to know what it was I enjoyed, and then making those steps afterwards. And that is the singular, probably the most important moment of my life when it comes to my professional development and growth and where I am today.
Then what's that one particular experience which doesn't look big on your CV, but sort of worked as a springboard for your skills to sort of where you developed your skill to a degree where you can actually come and work at this place, but it doesn't look that big on your CV?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say that the if I attach to that a sense of talking to people and being around people, I would say it's not one experience. It's every day, all the time. Everything that I do was connected to being around people and talking to them and trying to be interested in them. There wasn't one fundamental experience that I can reflect on. I can reflect on lots but it was the building blocks. To me, they were building blocks all the time. I just wasn't aware of what I was building in myself, but I was doing it all the time. And sometimes getting that self-awareness to see that, I didn't have it. So I'm not sitting here saying, I knew how to do it. I didn't know I was doing it, but it was there all along. And it's only now when I reflect. And I would encourage anyone to look at the things you do because you choose to do them, because you enjoy them, or look at things that naturally seem to happen around you because of the influence you have. There's often clues around us around what our next steps are. If I pivot to one thing slightly, Jay, if you forget, because if it's one experience, I can give you an example of that. This comes later in my professional journey around leadership. So I was always very much happy to muck in with a team. I love being parts of teams. I never saw myself as a leader, ever. Still don't, actually, but here I am. It was never that, but the experience that made me realise that I could do it, or at least had an interest in doing it, was playing cricket. So I played cricket all my life. That was a big hobby. When I talk about communities, that's one of the big communities I was part of. When I came to Liverpool, that was one of the communities I engaged in to form friendships, and that's been really important to me in my whole life, really. But I got to a point in my cricket team where there was no captain for the next season. And everyone was looking at me, well, you've played in the team almost the longest now. It was almost like your turn. So I kind of reluctantly took up the captaincy of the cricket team. I was there for 4 years. And I learned so much about myself as a leader and as someone who could handle decision-making, as someone that could bring people together from all different walks of life, different ages, generations, expectations, egos, demands, tears, tantrums, joy, victory, winning trophies. All of those things came to me in that 4 years that I was a cricket captain in my late 20s. And when I reflected on them, I realised that maybe I do have leadership qualities. You know, like it was okay. I wasn't perfect, but people responded in some ways to my leadership, and it made me just have that little ounce of confidence that maybe I could do it. And even though I didn't feel like I was a leader, and I didn't really think of myself as a leader, and all my previous leaders and line managers in work didn't really have similar traits to me, it made me sort of think, do you know what? Maybe it's something I can explore. And so that, as a singular experience, being a captain in a hobby, and the highs and lows that brought, was a singularly developmental experience for me to then say, I can do leadership. I can be that. And then that's put me in a pathway where I've ended up as the director of the team. And you'd have to ask my team whether they think I'm a good leader or not. I mean, I'd be fearful to hear. But no, but either way, it's ended up with the confidence, which is something you alluded to before. The confidence to do something came as a result of that experience that was almost thrust upon me. And that is another example, I think, of employability, connecting to identity, connecting to experience, leading to decisions that you make about your future. And it's big picture stuff here, I know. It's what I call big employability, this. It's a patchwork, it's a jigsaw puzzle of all the different things that you do in your life and your feelings and your thoughts and external factors, internal factors, coming together to form a picture. And the moment that you kind of have a sense of clarity on what the picture is becoming is often the light bulb moment for, I've got an idea of what I might want to do. And it's that. But you don't get the full picture with one jigsaw piece, or even a few. You need lots, which is going back to that proactive, go out there and do stuff, get involved with things, find as many jigsaw pieces as you can, and the picture will start to emerge, even if you don't realise it at the time.
Yeah, true. And I mean, you've been, I think, the first guest in the UK who played cricket.
I love cricket.
Yeah, I used to play a lot during my school days. It's just that my moving out to a different place made me break up from my cricket love.
Well, you need to. It's always there. It's always there. Cricket's not going anywhere. It's welcoming you back whenever you want to.
I'm looking for opportunities to play cricket. Just waiting for things to get more relaxed so that I can dedicate my time to something I loved the most during my school days.
I'm a strong believer. I don't know how much off topic I'm going here, Jay, so feel free to pull me back. But so to sort of emphasize that kind of reflective piece that I think is so important, I'd say, you know, I'm adding in fundamentals to employability as we go along here, but I would say the ability to reflect and be self-aware is another key part of this. One of the things is that I'm a father. I've got 3 boys of varying ages. And again, you do think about life slightly differently as a parent than I did before. You know, it's just the reality of it. Because you start to think that you've got a responsibility to think about the development, social development, personal development of these young babies as they grow through life. And one of the things that I've taken from my own experience and things that I'm definitely trying to impart, sometimes against their will, I have to say, they're not always the most willing participants, is the involvement in team sport. Team sport is one of the richest, most fertile learning grounds for lots of the things that connect to our employability. Competition, winning well but losing well, working with others, communicating effectively, operating under pressure, being organised, being there on time, having the right equipment, understanding that your role in a team is sometimes to be the hero, but sometimes it's to be in the background silently supporting someone else to be the hero, and that actually success for the team overrides everything. I sometimes look at my eldest son here, so I'm going to use a football analogy now. He says to me, he loves football. He says, Dad, who's going to win the Ballon d'Or? Now, the Ballon d'Or, for anyone that's not familiar, is like the best player in years. It's an annual competition where they announce, there's a series of votes, and they announce the best footballer in Europe. And he says to me, Dad, who's going to win the Ballon d'Or this year? Is it going to be this player or this player? And I say to him, son, it doesn't matter who wins that. Did his team win anything? And what was his role within the team? Because someone who wins all the personal accolades, but none of the team ones, to me, that isn't good stuff. That isn't what it's all about. And to me, that sense of team, that sense of togetherness that you get from playing team sports, and for me it was team sports, but for others it'll be something different. And it's not just team sports. There's lots of other places where you can have those experiences. But for me, I come back to it all the time. And I'm now trying to embed some of those values and principles and beliefs into my children because I think they're fundamental to them growing up well, making good decisions. I'm thinking about their employability, even though they're only 7 and 9, and in one case, 0, because he's only 10 months old. He's a bit young, but he'll be doing the same thing too. It's that fundamentals in place, and we go back to your focus on the fundamentals. For me, team sport is a rich breeding ground for those kind of fundamentals.
I mean, with what you said, I think playing in a team sport, I have this one of my experience, and this is actually the experience of the first job I ever did. So after I graduated, I did my first corporate job as a customer service rep, and for first 6 months, it was a probation for first 6 months. It's like I cannot do a lot. I am still learning, sort of absorbing what new things are there, what I require to do. And after that, I saw that there's some sort of gap in between the team of assistants and our customers, because of which I used to get a lot of complaints from our customers. And then I just simply asked my boss and said that, I find this gap, and because I was the only one in the customer service team, so there was no one else with whom I can just talk and sort of discuss about the problem. So I just talked to my boss and said that this is the problem I identified. I think I can sort of come in between and sort of help, because I'm the person who gets the first contact with the customer to welcome them on board, and I sort of understand what context are they looking their work to be done on. So it will be easier for me to sort of explain the assistants and help them with any sort of confusion they have, so that they can sort of work and perform the task much better. And just having this conversation led me to become the team mentor in sort of first 8 months. Mm-hmm. And I was the only person to sort of reach that position in 8 months. Usually it takes around 2 to 3 years there. And it's just because I wanted to solve a problem. And that's what I sort of learned by being in a team, because when you are in a team, even one member of the team has a problem, it sort of becomes a responsibility of entire team to solve that and sort of make sure that it doesn't impact the function of entire team. And I think that's what I personally took on by playing a team sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we keep talking about fundamentals and we keep talking about the importance of them around this. I think for me, we are in a very competitive world when it comes to finding jobs, particularly graduate jobs. They are competitive. There's lots of challenges. It's hard to stand out across the competition. And that competition has led to, I think, maybe more of a culture around the focus on the individual. What are my achievements? What am I good at? How is this going to reflect on me? I think it's understandable, and I can think that there's obviously benefits to that. But one of the things I think is that, and I say this as both an employer as well and someone who works in the employability space, is that employers are really good at noticing the things that are important. And the things that are important to an employer are usually, is this person a team player? Are they going to put the needs of the team or the business ahead of their own needs if it's required of them? You might think as an employer, I'm going to give this person the chance to thrive and grow and have individual success and be recognised in that way. But really what I need from them is I need them to support the team, help with the key parts of the running of this business, make sure that we become more efficient, we reduce wasted time, ultimately, because those things all sit on the financial bottom line of a business. So when they're looking for those things, they know it when they see it. And I think sometimes that we get worried that because we're not talking about ourselves and our personal accolades, we're not going to stand out. I just say that personal accolades are great, but actually what most employers want is someone that's going to come in and they're going to really support the needs of that business. And they are going to be very attuned to the type of person that can offer that and the kind of person that provides that. And actually, in a counterintuitive way, the person that doesn't have lots and lots of accolades from a personal respect on their CV, but has lots of shared team success, is someone that would stand out more for me in some instances, because I would say this person is a fundamental part of success that happens, and that's what I would want in my team. Yes, I want the superstars. Yes, I want the personal accolades. Yes, I want excellence. But also what I want is people that are going to help knit the team together, work together, do the extra yards when required, help support others to be successful as well. And I think that we can sometimes get into a place where we don't think employers recognise that because there's not a long list of personal accolades on a CV or something like that. What I'd say to anyone worried about that is employers are attuned to knowing what's going to work for them. They will see it in a CV, or they'll see it in a job interview when they meet you. They will see that because that's what they're actively looking for. So when you're preparing your application for anything, if you're looking to move jobs, putting down shared successes, but always making sure that you emphasise how you were part of that team effort, I think is something that will help you weirdly stand out more than a long list of personal accolades that you think might help you stand out as an exceptional candidate as well. Employers want these key things, make sure they're reflected in everything you do. And if we go back to the start of the journey, key fundamentals around employability, being part of teams, being part of communities, being part of different environments where you're seeing other people and you're working with other people, they provide you with a wealth of evidence to be able to do that when it does come to applying for jobs.
Right, that's right. And coming to the end of the podcast, do you have any questions for me? I mean, I've sort of said a lot about myself because this conversation was more of a reflection for me to sort of see that how much am I in line with what is exactly required in the market and how much should I work on. So first of all, thank you for that. And do you have any questions for me?
Well, I think as a student at Liverpool and having gone through and going through that journey of how do I unpick this crazy world of employability? What is it that I need to do? Where do I even start? How have you found that? And I would ask, and I often get asked, what would I recommend as the next step? I'd almost ask you what you think what advice you would give to any students that are maybe starting university or thinking of it, or any that are kind of undergoing that journey already, or those that are into their career. What are the kind of advice that you think you would give them, having been someone that's been proactive, probably pursued a lot of the key fundamentals that we've talked about? How have you found the whole experience?
I mean, my experience here has been fabulous. It's the environment that has been very supportive, because it's not always about being proactive. It's also about getting equally good response. Mm-hmm. If I would have emailed my student support asking something, and if Amy wouldn't have responded me with a direction to meet right people, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So it's also about the environment that I'm getting here. And so that's the lucky part of my journey, I would say. And the second thing is on the advice section is like, just ask. If you find someone who is interesting, and if you're looking for something, just simply ask them that, do you have any opportunity, or do you know someone who has any opportunity? It's as simple as that. Even if you're looking for experience, you are not very tensed about money like me and all international students. If you're just simply looking for an experience, still ask.
Yeah.
Because not everyone will give you the job, but a lot of time just getting the right direction is equally as important as getting a good job.
Yeah, totally agree. There's lots of it. I like to use analogies a lot, and one of the analogies I use is that you're sowing many seeds in the field. Every time you walk out the house, or sometimes actually staying within the house or wherever it is you're living through digital means, is try and leave like a positive impression in it. From every room that you walk out of, leave a positive impression behind, because you never know who's in that room and what might come from that. There are so many times that I can reflect of that something's come my way and it's through an unconnected link, but someone's obviously put a good word in. You kind of want people to speak positively about you when you're not in the room. And that's a really important kind of thought to have is, am I going to leave this room and everyone's going to roll their eyes, or everyone's going to instantly forget me, or whatever? And I'm sure there's lots of times where that's been the case. But really what you want to do is leave a positive impression in everybody's mind, even if it's just that you're very polite, very professional, very engaged, and very interested in whatever is going on, that you're being kind of active in that environment. If you continue to leave those positive impressions everywhere you go, and like you say, ask questions and take risks in how you engage with people, and and potentially do ask for opportunities or awareness of opportunities. If you're doing that, every time it's a new seed that you're throwing out into that field. And listen, not every seed is going to take root. You're going to, but if you throw enough seeds out there, some will start to take root. And it might be the one that you least expect. And that's so true about all of life, is that it's not simple. It's not a set route. There are lots of random variables that come into play in all of our lives all the time. But what you can be doing is trying to leave that positive impression everywhere you go. And I do believe that you display those key fundamentals that we've talked about already. I do believe that you are, at the very least, you are increasing the amount of chances that you will get some good luck. And if it's luck that you need, and we all need it, and we've all got a point in our journey where we go, that was lucky, you are increasing your chances of getting that good luck. And sometimes that's all you can do. The last thing, sorry, Jay, I know I'm talking too much here, but the last thing I would say is that if I could drill down everything I've just said into 2 words, it would be do stuff. Just do stuff. Just get involved and do stuff. It doesn't matter what the stuff is. It can be an internship. It could be a society membership. It could be playing a team sport. It could just be getting out the house or the apartment that day and going to have a walk around somewhere you've never been before, or go to a museum or a gallery or an event of some kind. Get out there and do stuff, and do all of those fundamentals that we've talked about within this, and I do believe that you are giving yourself the best possible chance of figuring out what is next for you, what the journey could be for you, and doing the right stuff consistently is what ends up with a good outcome in the end.
Brilliant. Perfect way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, and I really hope that we might catch up on different topics.
I hope so too. I've really enjoyed it. So anytime, love to be involved.
Thank you so much.